Welcome into the Bargewrite Inn.
Hey there. Today, new adventurers. This one is for you. Oh, cutie pie.
We have our first adventurer, it seems.
Yeah.
So
today we are going to be talking about what you need if you're going to start your role-playing experience. Dungeons and Dragons in particular is what we're going to cover.
You never know the age of someone that might come into your group, and they might be as new as Nova here.
Yeah, little level 1 human.
So why don't we dive into the necessities that you're going to need to play Dungeons and Dragons. Let's barge right in. So today we really wanted to take the time to show you the new D&D player or role player, because there's other systems you can play. Things you're going to need to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. I know that there's a lot of debate as to whether or not you actually need some of these other physical aspects to the game. A lot of players can just use these two first things that we're going to talk to you about, and that would be dice and the source books.
Yep. So we'll start with that. We'll go over a few other things that would help improve your gaming experience, and then in the next video, we'll introduce some more cool, complicated things that really enhance your gaming experience.
Yes.
But for now, let's talk about the basics.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to start with the books.
Yes. You need the books for your rules. Granted, if you're really on a tight budget, if you start playing with a group, someone in there is going to have the source book, is typically what they're called, depending on the game. In the case of Dungeons and Dragons, it is the Player's
Handbook. I'll flash it up on screen so you can get a close-up picture of it. The Player's Handbook is the #1 source of knowledge that you're going to need to play. It's going to have your class, your race, your basic rules. It really goes over feats, skills, everything.
Yeah, the way to do combat. The only things that are really missing are how to run the game and some of the smaller details and aspects to creating a game, creating a world, and all that. Things that we can go over in another...
It's really more of the DM style of book that we're talking about there.
But if you are going to be a DM, you for sure want to pick up the Dungeon Master's Guide as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, the Dungeon Master's Guide is not needed. However, it's very helpful.
Yes.
Because... I'm going to flash it up right here so you can see it. This book provides you with things like magical items, treasures, gems. There are certain rules, like carriage rules, things like that.
All sorts of detailed rules and aspects to the game that you may want to add, suggestions for dungeon masters. A lot of people ask other DMs, how do I DM? What are some of the things that I need to do and think about? And the Dungeon Master's Guide is going to tell you, most of that. Most of the key aspects to how to run their game.
Yep.
Now, there are other sources out there, different games, of course. So Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, all sorts of different crazy
World of Darkness is really good.
Yeah, and theirs are usually called a source book, which would combine basically those two books there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, on the DM side of it, if this is your first game as a Dungeon Master, you are definitely going to want to have your Monster Manual, because the Monster Manual is an excellent source of creatures that your players can encounter. Yeah. We always want to make sure we're thinking of the first-time Dungeon Masters, because there's whenever you DM a game, there's a point where it is your first time. Yeah,
there's I've got a brother of mine is actually starting up his first DMing experience, and he's a brand new player as well. So there's no saying that you can't have you and your friends starting out and one of you decide you want to be the DM. As the DM, you will need a few more things, such as the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual.
Now, these books usually run at about $50.
Roughly.
Roughly, you can buy them used at like $30 or $40, but you're gonna find a nice pristine version of it for $50.
Yeah.
And if you play D&D once, you're gonna want to play it for a while. I've been playing this since I was in high school. I mean, it's definitely a fun game, and And you can also find these books a lot of times in a bundle deal where you can get the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook all together.
Yes.
If you have the money, I totally recommend that. It's a great set of books to have.
Yeah, they have all three of them together. There are obviously more expensive, like there's edition versions. There are updated versions, but most of the rules haven't changed that drastically. And you can even get, if you're on a budget, a PDF. I would also suggest maybe pooling together if you have a group of new players to get a monster manual, a player's handbook, maybe two.
I do believe that Wizards sells PDF versions of those books, right?
Wizards does. I think you can get it through something like Drive Through RPG. You can find it online. And if you do online play, if you're the kind of person who wants to pick it up on an online format, there are certain groups that can give you the PDFs through their companies, like Roll20, for example, has their own PDF you have to purchase for their company.
Yep.
That's if you feel that you want to play Dungeons and Dragons in a
digital setting.
Digital setting, yeah.
So the books are your number one thing. The Player's Handbook is definitely the number one. You got to have that to play. But after that, what would you think would be next?
Well, you're going to need a sheet to keep all of the information on, obviously.
Yes.
Right? That sometimes you can just buy them. You can get them for free online. Wizards, I believe, at least provides that, and even how to play shorthand versions of the Player's Handbook if you just want to dip your toe in the water. That's a customized D&D sheet right there.
There's all kinds of different sheets you can get.
Yeah.
You can even hand draw them. I mean, for years, and I still do it to this day, I still write my character sheet by hand. I'm just more comfortable with it. But you can really do it however you want.
Yeah, I usually use a digital format if I'm not DMing. By the way, the term we keep using, DMing, is dungeon mastering.
Yep.
The dungeon mastering, if I'm not doing that and I'm just playing, I usually bring my laptop with me that has all my stuff on it anyway, and I can do a digital format, and you can even do it on your phone. They got phone apps.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised at the amount of different apps that you have available to put your character sheet on, and they have spell books for you to keep your spells in. Like, it's
most
wonderful.
of the stuff they have source information for, and if you have to look up something real fast online, you can usually be like, hey, what's this and this rule? But still, you'll want to have the Player's Handbook on you, so you're not I know they limit the kind of information that they'll have available. Right. So.
What I'll do is I'll put in the description below a couple of links to character sheets that you can use, and the names of a couple of apps that you can use on your phone to help keep track of your character sheet or your spellbook.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good.
Yep.
Well, I guess next would probably be the other thing that you actually have to use to play the game, and that's dice.
That's dice. Yeah, so, man, dice are absolutely essential. There's just nothing quite like rolling an actual dice. I mean, there are digital programs that you can use to roll dice, but I'm more of a classic person. I like to take the dice and roll it.
Yeah.
Now, there are several different dice that you need, so let's roll them out, shall we? You're going to find dice in a gaming store. It's packaged like this.
Usually you'll see them in a plastic blister like this.
Yep, or you might find specialty dice like this. Which I'll have a close-up on that later so you can kind of see it. These are really cool. Yeah. Pumpkin Halloween dice. Dice. So, let's talk about the different types of dice that you're going to need for your D&D game. Usually, the whole package that you get will come with every dice, but in case you're getting individual dice, you really want to start with your biggest dice, the D20.
Yes.
Now, when I say D20, D means dice, 20 means 20-sided.
Yes.
That's kind of dice lingo.
Yeah.
So
you're going to hear all sorts of numbers. Your typical dice that you get at, say, a gambling ring or a casino or whatnot is a D6, a 6-sided dice.
Yep.
And that looks like, well, a square, basically. But there are other ones, which we're going to show you real quick.
Yep. Now, real quick, just so you do know, and the importance behind the D20 in particular is Dungeons and Dragons is a 20 a D20 based system.
Yes.
And so everything you do is based around the 20-sided dice.
Yeah, there are some, I think World of Darkness only uses D6
Yep.
or D10s.
D10,
or something like that.
yeah.
D10s, yeah.
Yep.
Depends on the system, but when you hear what kind of system it is, a D20 system is based mostly on the 20-sided dice, but that doesn't mean it doesn't use others.
Yep. Now, you also have the D12.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the D10, which typically there's 2 D10s because these are technically called percentile dice.
Yes, if you use just one, that's a 1 out of 10 chance, or you have a item or health or whatever 10 being the number. But if you use 2 of them, one counts as your percentage. You're going to see a 0, 0. It will show you, and the other one just being the 1 through 10 numbers.
Yep.
Or 1 through 0, depending on what it may be. You roll them together, and it will be out of 100. Now, there's no such thing as 0%. So when you get 2 zeros, that's 100%.
Yep. Now you also have the D8, the 8-sided dice. You have your common 6-sided dice. I will say it is not a bad idea to stock up on 6-sided dice.
Yeah, you still use a lot of 6-sided dice because,
Yep.
again, most popular dice in the world.
Yeah, man. When you drop a fireball and you got to roll 10 6-sided dice, you're going to wish that you had 10 6-sided dice.
Not that I want to knowledge you any here, but I think they changed it to D8s now, didn't they?
Is it D8s now, 3.0 and 5.0? See, we come from an older system of D&D, so if it's D8s in 5th edition, you know, that's actually much better than a D6.
Who knows? I might be wrong. Nah, I'm not infallible.
Right. Now you also have the D4, you know, or we call it the caltrip. Be careful, don't leave that on the floor or you will regret it.
Oh yeah, pointy end. But when you're reading these, usually it's the pointy end that has the number that you're going to be reading.
Yep. And so those are the dice that you need. In the next video that we show you, we're going to show you some other dice that aren't used in the system, but if you can find ways to use them, the players will enjoy it.
Yes.
But those are the ones that you need to play the game.
Yeah, there are other ones out there that we'll discuss at a later date, like D100s, where you don't have to roll 2 of them, or dice that are coins or rings, you know, crazy stuff like that. So for sure, those things that you need are the books, and the dice, and your imagination at that point.
Yep.
But for those of you who are wanting a more visual experience, especially because games are starting to lean that direction, you know, money.
Yep.
We're going to go over some of the basics that you could pick up for playing this game.
Absolutely. So let's start with figures.
All right. So whenever you're playing the game, you can purchase these pre-painted figures. All right. It's the easiest way to get them. That way you don't have to do any work. You don't have to, you know, paint them yourself. But that is an option. Something that I personally like to do. But, you know, Josh here, I don't think is all that into it.
I mean, it's not that, it's interesting actually. It's not even that I'm not into it. It's more like I have lots of other friends who are into it, so I don't have to be into it.
Okay, it's true.
You know, I mean, when I come over here to play with him, I know that he's going to have much figures. When I'm at my house, personally, I just use pennies and quarters. Yeah. But it is really nice.
Yeah, so it's the cheap way you can do it is even though I love to collect them, sometimes it's easier to just use a bunch of D6s. That way you have a number for what each one is. If you want to go a bit cheaper route. A little bit more expensive, you can get these boxes here of pre-painted minis. This one is a Pathfinder set. And it comes with 4 miniatures for, I think, about $15. You're going to get 1 large guy and 3 little guys. They come all ready to go, already painted. Maybe a little bit lower quality, but it's also something you don't have to worry about getting damaged. And it looks nice. D&D has their own sets, Wizards in particular, the company. And it comes in same size boxes, but also larger ones that you can use. And it comes with guys like this big dude here. Sometimes they're a little bit higher quality. And one of the fun things about getting these is kind of like the randomness of it. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. So you might just get a bunch of them. For some people, that's also frustrating. So you can purchase them online individually, I believe, through trading companies and stuff. But also some of your game stores are going to have them available for sale. But it can be fun just to crack open a pack and see what you got.
Yeah, and, and there's a whole other aspect to this, too, that I find very intriguing. And that's that you can buy plain figures and paint them yourself.
Yes, yeah, that's the whole painting miniatures part. I love painting the minis. Sometimes I don't have the time to do it, and sometimes that might be a difficult thing for you to find. You can find other people to paint them, just like you were mentioning.
Yep.
But ultimately, if you're trying to go on a budget, and you don't worry about white or black or just metal figures, you can get those as well unpainted. And they're usually a little more expensive, especially if they're metal, but they're higher quality and you can pick exactly what you want. Stuff like that.
Now, we will have videos on the channel where we talk about painting and the whole process.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to talk about just with miniatures.
Yeah, but it's really its own little niche.
Yeah, but definitely having something there to represent your characters and the monster characters if you're the dungeon master. You want, something a little bit larger for the big baddie that they fight, but like D6 again, or any other dice will fit for a regular sized person, because the game is based on a 1-inch grid, which I'll show you real quick.
Yep, leads us right into our next thing.
Yes, maps. You want players to be on some sort of map. They tell you in the game that you move a certain distance, like 30 feet per turn, for example, in Dungeons & Dragons. Each square represents a certain amount of feet, usually in Dungeons & Dragons' case, 5 feet.
5 feet per square.
Per 1-inch square. And that way you have your character moving across, I go 30 feet, and you can see exactly how close you are to something or far from it. Now, as far as mats go, there are a lot of options as well. If you don't want the grid, you don't like the way it looks, or you can't afford to buy specific ones, you can get something like this. Show them the...
Yeah, so, when we're looking at maps, it's good to not only have your map, but have a little dry erase board that we use, because you can keep track of your initiative.
Yeah.
The initiative is important because it helps determine the order in which people act in combat.
Yeah.
Typically, you'll only ever use the maps whenever you're doing something that requires in-turn movements.
Yeah, usually a lot of times it's just a lot more work to have your miniatures up there and moving them around just because you went to go talk to some character at a bar or whatnot. So they usually reserve that for the battle moments, which also means you want to be keeping good track of your battle moments.
I'm sure that we'll have a video in the future that goes in detail into combat and how it breaks down and works, because there's a lot of different aspects to combat.
And things to make it easier. But for sure, definitely grab something that makes it easier for you to keep track of initiative and HP. HP being the health.
Health, yeah. Hit points.
How good your characters are still looking or not.
Yeah,
having that, you can use that for that, but you can also get the bigger ones. I think you have one at your place. A big board that it might not have a grid on it, but you can kind of do guesswork of your own there, but you can draw on it. You can draw your own maps.
Yep. The cool thing is you can be as creative as you want with a dungeon map, because it just needs 5 foot by 1 inch by 1 inch squares to represent your 5 foot movements. Yeah. I had a board one time that I took a picture frame, a big picture frame, and I slid a ceramic tile underneath it, and then put wallpaper over the top that was gloss, and then drew my grid marks onto it, so that the glass acted as a surface that we could draw on, and then the board underneath represented the squares for the movements.
Yeah, some people get crazy with it. A friend of ours even made a table, like a full wooden table, and then you can get spray painted coats for dry erase, and you can draw on the whole table.
Yep.
Which is cool. And also, if you got kids, let them draw on your table whenever, you can wipe it right off.
Absolutely. So,
but we're going to show you a few of the basic ones that you can find at stores or online that are, good things to have. Firstly, one you're going to see at pretty much any game store are these soft battle mats, right? Oh, look, I have something still drawn on there, huh? Well, this has the 1-inch grid on it, and it is a nice material. You can find them online. You can also find them at game stores most of the time. The back of it has a hexagonal shape, and it's a nice material, very easy to take around.
Now, just remember that on those particular mats, those are wet erase mats.
Yeah, or you get stains.
Yeah, if you use dry erase marker on a wet erase mat, it will not come off. Well, it's on like permanent.
A lot of work will be involved to get it off.
Yes.
So those things are real nice, easy to take around. There's a little bit of cleanup involved, but there's going to be cleanup in most games anyway.
Right.
So
just make sure that you're using the right markers on the right boards.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you get two different boards, you might get a little confused. I know I've done it before plenty of times. Or a player will pick up one that's sitting around and accidentally write on your board and get it permanently marked, but. Yeah,
however, though, this is some interesting information for the permanent markers. If you accidentally use permanent marker on your game board, you can draw over the permanent marker with a dry erase marker, and then it wipes right off.
Oh, yeah.
That only works with permanent markers on dry erase board. It does not work on wet erase boards.
Yes.
And so if there's anything to take away from this video, one, if you are not the one that has the figures, or nobody in the group has figures, and you want figures, peer pressure your DM into buying figures. That's what I do. Yeah. Or just buy yourself a piece so that you have a piece for your own character.
You can buy individual blisters as well. There's packs out there. We can go into more detail on them. But you can buy just like 1 or 2 figures of the same guy, even like a battle and a non-battle version.
Yep.
And some of them come painted, some of them don't. But you can buy just yourself one for your character or just represent general characters. And your DM can just use dice or a large object at that point to represent your characters. But also, you want a map, and you do want characters.
Absolutely, yeah. Make sure you got a map. Also, if you ever get the chance, roll your DM's dice. That user curses it with bad luck. Always a good idea. You don't want the DM to kill you on the first game. It's terrible.
All right, so I wouldn't listen to him in this case, being that I DM all the time. It's rather annoying when someone tries to pick up your dice, all right? It is bad luck for you to be messing with other people's dice. Yeah. Always ask permission before you play with someone else's dice.
This is the truth. You never know if they're going to be touchy about it. I mean, it's not like I know people who lost their animal, then lost their character, all in one session. I mean, that's just, you don't want that to happen. And so,
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
Either way, these are some great things that you can use at home or at your D&D game. If you're a newcomer, I hope some of this helps. If you watch this and then you got to play D&D for the first time, we'd love to hear how it went. And if some of the things that we showed you here helped, just leave us a comment down below. If you could, like our video, give it a thumbs up. That always helps. Yeah. And until then, we'll see you next time at the Bargewrite Inn.
Remember, keep your spirits full and your cups too.
And your mugs and cups full too.